All right, Blues, it's Stephen here on BlueMoonRisingTV, and with all the rife speculation this week that a whole vast amount of players have been linked to the club, with names being thrown about left, right and centre, we've dragged in Sam from Goal, who's going to kind of give the lowdown on all the names and players and see who we think is likely. So first off the bat, we've got Gundogan of Borussia Dortmund. Now, he's had a great season this year, hasn't he? He's up until 2 games ago, he'd made the most about passes in Bundesliga and he was on fire. So do you see this one that City are going to kind of clinch the deal with?
Yeah, definitely. I think I'd be very surprised if this one didn't happen. I'm certain he's going to come to City. Barcelona and Juventus, they were both interested. They've both dropped out of the race. Won't go too much into other clubs' politics and dealings or whatever, but yeah, they're basically out of it now. I think it's so far down the line with City. There was that meeting in Amsterdam with his agent, his uncle, and Chicky Begiristain. That definitely took place, obviously discussing the transfer. I think it's really far down the line. And you mentioned the passing and the style of play. Yeah. He's just perfect. You see the problems with City at the moment. It's just very slow, isn't it? Quite stodgy, the build-up. Yeah. But I mean, it's just inherent with the way Guardiola wants to play. And Gundogan's perfect for that. He gets the ball and he just gives it so quickly. He's so inventive. He doesn't just sit at the back of midfield. He's another 20, 30 yards further forward than that. Yeah. One-touch passes, switching the play. If he wins the ball in midfield, he'll give it straight away. I mean, he's going to be vital, I think, as Guardiola tries to transform the club this summer. Yeah, you'd think as well. And there was the whole thing about how he bumped into a leading sports journalist in Dubai, who was apparently like best friends with the Sheikh and all that. And he said he's 99.9% certain and add a 9. I don't know where the 9 goes. We never decided that. But he's one, in my opinion, he's on the yes pile. Would you go along with that? Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Moving quickly on then into Laporte, who's another defender we've been linked to. He's been loads this summer and it's kind of obvious why. Company's had his share of injuries. Otamendi hasn't settled fully. Demichelis, the least said the better at the moment. Sorry, mine. And Mangala's not had the best season. So 20-year-old French defender, Bilbao, where do you see this one? Yeah,
Laporte's another one who's definitely on the list. Again, in terms of the Guardiola game plan, he's a left-footed centre-back, plays on the left side of defence. The amount of times he switches the ball from the left side to the right.
That's the big thing of his style, isn't it? Guardiola's about transitions, about moving the ball wide, quickly, overloading a certain area, then switching it, isn't it?
Yeah, you talk about quarterbacks in football, it's normally like Pirlo, defensive midfielders. But Guardiola's at Bayern is Jerome Boateng, the centre-back.
The 70-yard passes over the top
exactly.
Stuff,
It's to spring the press, basically. If the teams are pressing Bayern, it's so they can get the ball over the top. Laporte does that all the time with his left foot. His short-range passing's fine as well. Obviously, he's a perfectly competent defender, a very good defender. But, as is the common thread with all these players, they're all very good on the ball. Laporte, and again, City definitely interested. It's no coincidence that all the newspapers, all the websites on Monday night, he was on the Guardiola shortlist. Like I say, City definitely interested. The one thing is, Athletic Bilbao always fight to keep hold of their players. They can't just bring in a replacement from elsewhere because they only use Basque players. They've had it in the past with Ander Herrera, Javi Martinez, and Fernando Llorente. They fight to keep hold of their players. So if City are going to get him, I think he's going to cost a lot of money, but I do think it's a likely arrival.
Yeah, so he's in the yes pile for us then. Quickly on an odd one. This one's kind of appeared out of nowhere, a couple of weeks back, and it's Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain of Arsenal, who hasn't really kind of set the world alight at all since he moved to the Emirates. He's a good functional player. A little raw around the edges, is probably underplaying it a little bit. Is there just a homegrown element here? Is there anything to this, or is he just another name on a massive list of players that possibly could have been in touch with City at one point?
Well, I mean, journalistically speaking, I'm sure the story, came from a very good source. Yeah. And I think City fans as well put a lot of stock in that because, it came from a reliable place, a reliable publication, and individual journalist who nobody, everybody trusts. Nobody would say he just enters into transfer speculation for the sake of it. So I think there's definitely something there. Whether it's going to happen or not, again, it comes back to new contracts and all this kind of thing. And also Arsenal, the fuss Wenger's made about, he doesn't need to sell players to United or City these days.
But they love selling players to us, they're totally fine with that.
the fans really take to it so well. The thing is, I can't really see them doing it again. And from City's point of view, you mentioned the homegrown thing. I think that's probably about as far as it makes sense to me. I think there's definitely better players out there. Maybe, Guardiola sees some potential there that he could work with, but I'm sure that's the case of any number of players, and players already in the youth team.
Exactly, there's several players in the EDS, in my opinion, just as much quality and just as much ability to be kind of honed at a younger age into what Pep wants. So for now, should we put that one in the no pile?
Yeah, and I think in the no pile, I think there's definitely some interest there. Like I say, it's a very reliable story. For whatever reason, for one or two reasons, I can't see it really happening.
Than that as well. You'd
think go for better players.
Next on, Weigl from another excellent young player for German midfield. Great pass of the ball, sits a little bit deeper. He's had a bit of a breakthrough season this year, and he's been heavily linked. Where do you see this one going?
This one's difficult. He's been linked, I think, going back to December, maybe January.
Yeah, he was one of the first ones, wasn't he?
Even before Guardiola was announced, but everyone knew it was happening. He was kind of one of the main guys Guardiola would like. There was that quote dug up from when Bayern played Dortmund earlier in the season, and he said, if it wasn't for Weigl, Dortmund couldn't play the same way.
I think maybe that's something to do with it. Maybe people are putting a name simply because of a comment, because you've seen that with Bonucci as well.
Bonucci is a great example,
If a manager like Guardiola says anything about any one player, everyone's like, he's going to City,
Perhaps,
is that part of it?
But then at the same time, there's all these players at Bayern who he'd love to bring with him.
Yeah,
but
true.
Bayern just aren't going to sell anybody to him this summer. They might not sell anybody to City ever again. Yeah. Same with Barcelona. They're difficult players to get.
Do you really think they're going to hold a grudge?
Maybe they will. But yeah, in terms of Weigl specifically, I think he is perfect. Obviously, Guardiola is a big fan. It makes sense that he would come here, that City would be interested.
Do you think it's possibly dependent on other moves, maybe? Because a lot of midfielders have been linked this season, and we can't sign them all, as much as Pep would love to, obviously.
Yeah. This is the thing, and Dortmund, as much as I think Gundogan's done is going to happen, obviously Dortmund are going to be a bit reticent to let him go.
Yeah, exactly.
If they let Weigl go as well, another key part of their midfield, those two, the whole game's built around the way those two. I mentioned Gundogan's ability on the ball and the ability to spot a pass. Weigl's exactly the same. He sits a bit deeper, he gets it from the centre-backs and the full-backs, but as soon as he gets it, he's looking, and he spreads the ball as well. He can really ping it around just the same. This kind of, this quarterback theory that Guardiola really buys into. And, the ability to beat that press. It definitely makes sense, but for Dortmund, it doesn't make sense for them to sell both of them.
So we're saying this one, dependent, maybe a maybe on this one?
Yeah, a maybe. We'll see how it goes with other targets. Yeah. I think he's definitely there, and if it gets to later in the summer and the City maybe can't buy whoever we might come to mention later on, then maybe they'll go back to Weigl and see what they can do.
On that subject, the one that could kind of make a big impact on that transfer happening is Paul Pogba. He's one that is hugely linked at the moment. He was heavily linked last summer, and there was all these rumours that it was about to happen, and there was the image rights nonsense. There was a link to Barca with all the presidential candidates using him as a pawn in the election. But finally, it looks like he's going to leave Juventus this summer, and apparently his eyes are set on Man City. That's the rumour going round. And is this what you've heard as well?
Absolutely, yeah. I think Paul Pogba to City really could be a goer. I mean, this would be the big marquee signing that, I suppose, I don't know, maybe Chinese investors or fans or whoever have really been looking forward to.
Possibly our first proper major signing as well, like Aguero and Yaya, and so they were not quite at the level that Pogba was in terms of world star at the time, were they? So
Pogba's one of the burgeoning world stars, like you say. There aren't many superstars in the game right now, but Pogba definitely is. The off-field brand is fantastic. All the dabs and the haircuts and these new boots and all that kind of thing.
I'm just not up to date with this youth culture anymore.
No, it goes over my head, but it's obviously popular. Yeah, he's 23 years old. We haven't even mentioned how good he is on the pitch.
He's pretty decent.
Yeah, exactly. And he can play the possession game that Guardiola wants. He's got the quick, intelligent passes. He can take it round players as well.
He's confident too, isn't he, as well?
Supremely confident.
He wants to win the Ballon d'Or, as every footballer does, but he's quite vocal about that, and he sees Pep as apparently the man to kind of take him to that next step. So
that's right. Yeah, he wants to come and work with Pep. I think he's really attracted by that idea. Sources at City have said, Guardiola's phone, Begiristain's phone, been ringing off the hook since it was announced because players want to come. Pogba is definitely one of them.
That's a yes then for us.
I think
I'm happy
it's possible.
about that. I'll take a yes for that. On someone who I think is possibly a no, and I think it's a kind of slightly lazy rumour, Thiago Alcantara. I think this might just be the Pep factor in play, and the fact that Pep took him from Barca to Bayern, and it's easy to presume he's going from one way. But is there more to this than meets the eye, in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, City are going to be interested in the best players in Europe.
And he is one of them, isn't he?
And he is, yeah. And not just because of that, But also, you mentioned he brought him from Barcelona to Bayern, and he was his first choice. You know, the thing it was Thiago or nothing. That's what he wanted. For Bayern, and it's because Guardiola is not going to have much time this summer with the Euros and the Copa America.
That's the big thing, isn't it?
To get his style across. So he needs people on the training ground who know exactly how to do it.
Yeah.
So he's not just teaching the players, but he say, look at Thiago, and it's the kind of thing that's happened at Barcelona with Busquets. Busquets was younger than Mascherano. He was tutoring Mascherano. Pedro was tutoring David Villa, World Cup winner.
Yeah.
Because these guys know what Guardiola wants.
Yeah.
And if Thiago can come in and do that, then it just helps smooth everything over. And we talked about what Gundogan can offer and what Weigl can offer in terms of the, using the ball and knowing where to be, the little feints, the movements and all this kind of thing. I think Thiago is probably the best example of that. But he signed a new contract recently. Bayern aren't going to let him go. I think he said himself, he obviously loves Guardiola, but his future doesn't depend on where Guardiola goes. I think he's happy enough at Bayern. And I just can't see him being sold. Not now. Maybe next summer. Maybe the summer after.
I think it'd be too awkward. I think Bayern they'll dig their heels in. Their attitude, in my opinion, you've got Pep. That's enough. Leave us away. I think he'll stay there. I think he's settled. He's playing good football. I can't see that one personally. Is that a no for us?
Yeah, they're not going to want to smooth Guardiola's transition anymore.
Yeah.
I can't. It's a no, but it'd be our deal. It's not going to happen.
I think it's a no. But one that could be a yes is John Stones. This is one that's not going away either. And there's a lot to be said about John Stones' potential as well as a player. He's obviously an excellent footballer. He's got a decent turn of pace. He's familiar with the Premier League, and he's that elusive homegrown player, which is the big thing these days. And that one that seems to be quite likely to me.
Yeah, again, like I say, it's no coincidence that all these names earlier in the week all surfaced in the usual reliable places. And yeah, he's up there. Whether City can sign Laporte and Stones in the same summer, both, as we say, with Athletic wanting to keep on to Laporte, Everton will want to keep on to Stones. They would be very expensive players. I think there's backlash against Stones.
Is that too much?
Both of them. The thing is, City have spent over 75 million-ish on Mangala and Otamendi.
Yeah.
I think Mangala's going to go. I'm sure if City have their way, they'd probably get rid of Otamendi as well, but I think he'll probably stay.
I think they'll give him another year, benefit of the doubt and all that, even to save face maybe. But I think there might be something there, for him to improve under Pep as well. So.
Well, the thing is, that's the thing. I mean, there's been this massive backlash against Stones. Everyone was hailing him as, the next Bobby Moore in the summer, which I think it's more deserved.
There's no middle ground, is there?
Yeah, no, I think it's more deserved than the criticism he's getting. People are just slagging him off now as if he's past it, worth nothing.
Over the hill already.
Yeah, he's too fancy and all this. I'm not having that at all. You talk about Guardiola being able to come in and
look
mould
at Piqué
players
as well at Barca, and he was roaming up and tapping it at the near post for Barca. So, what do you reckon this one's a yes then? Or
again, City definitely interested. Definitely would like to sign him. I think maybe it depends on other targets and Laporte and how much money is there. Maybe it even depends on Pogba. If they can sign him for 80 million, maybe that's a big chunk of the budget gone, and they might have to set their sights a little lower. Maybe bring back Denayer and have him at centre back. I think if all goes well and City get their targets, I think Denayer will come back and play right back. But maybe they'll have to reassess.
Yeah,
I think it's a yes for Stones. I think it depends on a lot of factors, but broadly, yes, I do think it's very possible.
I'm fine with that one because good defender, good young prospect. Now this is one that is kind of the scourge of the City fans. It's almost a bit of a saga within itself. And Isco, I swear this started because he was holding a shirt one year, and that's it. Ever since then, it's kind of steamrolled away and carried it himself. I don't see that happening personally. I think it's just a lazy link. But is there more to this than meets the eye?
I mean, they were definitely interested a few years ago.
I'm cynical now,
Yeah. You've seen it all before.
Exactly, yeah.
But there was definitely something in it. When he left Malaga for Real Madrid 3 years ago, obviously there was the Pellegrini link then.
Yeah.
Both worked, Pellegrini had taken him from Valencia to Malaga. They'd worked together there. He's obviously a big fan, and I think he was very close to coming to City then, but obviously Real Madrid came in.
Yeah.
And fair enough, the stage City were at then, they were never going to be able to compete with Real Madrid. Still can't really. That's why Guardiola's coming in.
Of course.
But now, the stories again this week are Guardiola's given the okay to this move, and I think Isco's always been on the list. He's January, I think there was some interest, to see the situation. Benitez getting sacked changed things because, he was one of a number of players not happy with the Benitez era.
Yeah.
But Zidane's one of his idols, so, he's stayed there and he's going to ride it out. But it all kind of depends as well on this Real Madrid transfer embargo.
Does it depend on the other signings as well, with Pogba and so on like that? If we do get them, is there space to sign an Isco to fit in alongside Pogba and a Sterling and a De Bruyne and a Silva and so on?
I think so. Because I think Pogba would still, if Pogba were to come and say Gundogan and Weigl, for argument's sake, and Pogba, and say that was your midfield three, I think he'd be at the tip of that. And then I think you'd have Isco on that sort of wide left role. Wide, it would be narrow.
The way Silva plays that
The way Silva does it, yeah. Last summer when they bought De Bruyne, all the talk was he'd be the next Silva. But I think Isco's more like the next Silva, less mobile. Exactly. Stylistically, yeah. So I think there would be space. And like I say, if Madrid can overturn this transfer ban, or they just need to sell off some players, they could raise some money by selling Isco to bring in whoever they want to get. Maybe they'll try and do it to rival City for Pogba. It could happen. City could find some middle ground there with a deal for Isco. But like you say, I know you're more cynical than I am.
I'm a City fan, what can I say?
Yeah,
born cynical. So, I mean, I think if we had to choose a yes or no based on everything, I am leaning towards no. Would you go along with that?
Yeah, based on everything, yeah.
That's a yes, no, maybe.
Okay, let's go for that.
And finally, I mean, I think this is it. There's obviously more names constantly, but of the ones linked, a kind of surprising one is Kroos. He's had an interesting time at Real Madrid. There was rumours that Pep never wanted to let him go in the first place, and that was kind of done behind his back when he first joined Bayern. But that kind of came out of nowhere recently as well, and there seems to be some weight towards that.
Yeah, well, the story with Guardiola, the story goes that much the same as now he's planning for transfers. When that story broke that Bayern was signing Goethe from Dortmund, that big mad story before a big Champions League game between the two teams, that had Guardiola's fingerprints all over it. That was one of his requests. And the story goes that another one of those was that they wouldn't sell Toni Kroos, whatever happened. They had the season together. They actually had a bust-up on the touchline at Old Trafford in the Champions League game when Moyes was United manager. They had a bit of a bust-up when he took Kroos off, but there's no issue there.
It's quite a fiery manager, isn't he? But
exactly.
That's just Pep.
These things happen.
Yeah.
But Guardiola, he's a massive fan of Kroos, but it was the board who sold him pretty much against his wishes.
Would he suit the English game, do you reckon?
Yeah, well, the thing is, Kroos, if you don't watch Real Madrid, he's not one of these players that grabs the headlines.
Yeah,
you'd think, a lot of people would say, I'm not sure how he's getting on at Real Madrid.
Well, how do you grab the headlines when you've got Bale, Ronaldo, Benzema, and God knows who else?
Exactly, but if you look at the numbers, since he's joined, he's played the second most passes in La Liga. That's since the start of last season.
And in the Spanish league, that's impressive, isn't it?
Yeah, and he's got the 7th most chances created.
Which is
as well in the whole league. He's got 117, I think the most is Messi with 150. So there's not a world of difference there, considering the chances that Messi makes, Barcelona make and all that. So again, it's that Guardiola blueprint of, football intelligence, being able to use the ball, but it's not just passing for the sake of it. There were chances being created there.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. City fans shouldn't think it's just going to be all possession and sideways passing, which, to be fair, some Bayern Munich fans are still complaining about now. But it's not going to be about that. It's going to be very direct. There's going to be a cut edge to this.
Apparently, it's meant to be a tense, kind of wide, lots of width, lots of aggression. But that's the style. So, I mean, that's it as far as I'm concerned of all the players are the main ones. And I see Kroos as a possible yes. And would you go along with that?
Yeah. Again, just because Guardiola, he loves him as a player. Again, as I said, it's no coincidence that Kroos' name has popped up this week in all the normal places, all the usual places. It's definitely a yes for me. I could see that one happening as well.
That's good enough for me. I mean, I think that's basically the end of the mammoth list of players you've got there.
Yeah.
But cheers for offering all your opinion and all that. Do you think any of these players are going to come to City? Who do you want to see there? Let us know in the comments. If you haven't already, subscribe, and we'll see you soon.